Hello, hello, welcome, please come in. Our Final Fantasy journey continues today in Final Fantasy V. Here, our Good at Items class is the Chemist, and Chemist gets a good variety of nice bonuses that I will be exploiting liberally to get through this game. This is also the first FF5 run on the channel that wasn't a mage class, so that's neat. Anyway, I've completed the initial party gathering and reached the first set of crystal shards. Normally, Chemist is locked behind the final-ish crystal shards much later in the game, but thanks to a save file uploaded to Nexus Mods, I can access every class in the game now that the job menu is available, which I appreciate. And while I get a few levels before continuing, let me talk about what the Chemist has to offer. First is that unlike Scholar and FF3, Chemists have actual equipment access, specifically daggers and staves, which isn't great, but it is certainly better than, well, nothing. Then the drink command, which lets me drink stat-boosting tonics. I will talk about these more later when it becomes relevant. Most important is that once I reach level 2 in Chemist, I will get the very strong mix ability, which is stupidly versatile, and I will get to it. But first, it's into the next boss fight, Carlabos. This boss can be a bit rough, with strong attacks that have a decent chance of paralyzing a party member. In a casual run, you can just spam Thunder and it dies very quickly, but I will have to rely on much weaker knives. Fortunately, this is still the first 10 minutes of the game, so potions are actually usable. Although that is only because chemists have the innate pharmacology ability to double the potency of items, because otherwise potions are pretty awful. And to be fair, they still are. But that is enough to keep me healed up to beat down Carlabos, and it's into the ship graveyard. And other than some free healing items, there isn't really anything interesting here, and it is boss time. Siren alternates between a mortal form, vulnerable to physical attacks, and an undead form, vulnerable to magic. I can do okay damage with basic attacks in the first form, and once she switches to undead, my pharmacology-boosted potions can finish her off. And now I have Mix, possibly one of the strongest and most versatile single commands in the entire game, though I am limited in what items I have access to right now. Anyway, over in Carwin, I can buy some better weapons, armor, and some more healing items. One downside of the item-focused approach is it's going to be pretty money-tight, at least for a while. And it's over to the nearby mountain because I need a dragon. But that requires beating the next boss, which I'm almost certainly too low a level to do. But let's see how it goes anyway. Always good to get a baseline. Dagger damage isn't too bad, and my healing is pretty good. And Forza can deal over my max HP. Yeah, no, that's not gonna work. Not that I actually expected it to. Honestly, I took out Magissa before dying, so I think I'm closer to winning than I had expected. Okay, a few levels gained, let's pop back into the fight. My damage is the same, but I have a decent chunk more HP, and pharmacology means my potions are still healing enough to keep me alive. Mostly. I really don't have the healing to keep up with 2 damage outputs, so I decided to focus on taking out Magissa. My attacks deal less damage because she's in the back row, but I think it's worth it. Once Magissa goes down, it's really just spam attacks, occasionally heal, and when someone goes down, I can use Mix with a Phoenix down and a potion to get a full revive. That's right, a potion and a Phoenix down replicates full life. Pretty busted. We'll be seeing more Mix nonsense as we go on. Dragon obtained, I can now head over to Wolves. This town sells better armor, and I can stock back up on healing items. I will always need healing items. And because I can fly, I can head over to Castle Tycoon for a flashback scene and the healing staff. This lets me attack an ally to heal them. Less useful for chemists than other classes because my magic stat is pretty low, but free healing is free healing. And I will take what I can get. Into the Tower of Ulst and its next boss time, Garula. I still don't quite have access to any of the more interesting mixtures for this fight. I do, however, have a single power drink. I'll be able to buy these a bit later, but for now I am limited to the few that are in chests. And one power drink on Bartz boosts his damage to reasonable levels. From there, it's just support with potions and the healing staff. It takes a while, since I have pretty limited damage output, but I have more than enough potions. And that means it's time to head over to Karnak, which has more shops with new items. I spend some time off camera killing turtles to get turtle shells, a special item only usable in mixtures that will be very useful. And then it's into the fire ship, the next dungeon I'll need to clear, which has the next boss, Liquid Flame. I discovered in my attempt at White Mages Only that you can just confuse Liquid Flame in its humanoid form. It will attack itself, deal a bit of damage, and then you can repeat until it is dead. And thanks to a mixture of eye drops and Maiden's Kiss, I have a 100% accurate confusion move, so this fight basically handles itself. Boss done, I can escape from Karnak Castle, which isn't super great. My healing is strong, but my damage output is really bad. which makes actually getting treasure chests during this escape pretty risky. But I grab what I can and I'm out of there. And for the boss, I just kill the sergeant to avoid having to fight Deathclaw. And that means I can head over to the ancient library. First fight is up against Ifrit, and by combining a turtle shell with eye drops, I can haste parts. Who can use a Goliath tonic to boost max HP to make sure he stays alive, rather than dying and losing the haste effect. Then a turtle shell and an antidote can drop Ifrit's defense. Ifrit is pretty durable and can deal big damage, actually too big of damage, and bad news is that haste drops on death. Good news is the Goliath tonic doesn't, and while it's a pretty frantic fight, I managed to beat Ifrit. Well, that was harder than it needed to be. If only past me had known about the resist fire mixture. And next up is Byblos. This fight by itself stopped my White Mages Only attempt, so it's time to do some grinding, because I already know this fight is going to take a while, and I really only want to do this once. Okay, let's see how this goes. First note, my damage is bad. Not White Mage bad, but pretty close. Good news is I can actually drop Byblos' defense with Turtle Soup. And while it's costly in the Ether department, I can also drain MP with Lilith Kiss mixtures. Byblos is still very strong and can pretty easily KO a party member if I'm not being very attentive, but having full life makes that considerably less scary. And then the fight is just really long. Byblos is very durable, particularly when I have no way to increase my damage, and he is absolutely not messing around. Eventually I reach the stage of the fight where Byblos starts to cast Drain as a counterattack, which is always bad, because he is actually healing more HP than I am dealing. I try to counter this by just attacking wildly, but that's not really working. I mean, eventually he will run out of MP, but it's gonna take a while. Instead, I pivot back to using Lilith Kiss. These can drain a decent chunk of MP, and hopefully will stop his draining. It does mean I'm burning elixirs since I'm out of ethers, but it's worth it. And thanks to Lilith Kisses and Byblos having already cast Drain a bunch, he finally runs out of MP, so he can try to counter me as much as he wants. I don't really have great healing on single targets now that I'm out of ethers, but Phoenix Down and potions triggering a full revive is more than enough to keep me going. And Byblos dies on the first attempt. Albeit after 20 minutes of fighting. I feel much better having gotten past that fight. I mean, I'm not really out of the woods yet, but that fight is a real mess when you don't have strong fire damage at your disposal. Beating Byblos means I have the fire ship, and the seas are mine to explore. And that starts with Crescent Island, where I lose the fire ship and gain a black chocobo. And the black chocobo lets me access some new towns to buy some better armor. We love higher defenses. And in the town of Lix, I can actually buy ethers. Mixing potions and ethers creates X potions for full healing, which I've been doing a bit of, but now I have infinite of both, which means single target healing is now solved. Okay, diversion's completed, time for fighting in the desert. The sandworm fight is pretty simple. Its quicksand ability deals pretty low damage, and the sap it inflicts isn't actually concerning. After the Byblos fight, the sandworm is always such a nice relief. Time to fall into some cool tech, then get teleported, and look, Fireship is now an airship. And it's next boss time. Crayclaw is basically just Carlabos with one new attack, which does reduce a single target member down to 1 HP. Good for me then, that chemists do not even slightly care about that. Time to grab some adamantite so I can fly high in the sky to get to where the earth crystal is. Adamantite is guarded by Adamantoise, one turtle soup to drop defense, and then it's basically just spam attack. Adamantoise does deal big damage, and my healing is limited by my max HP, so I think it's time for everyone to drink some Goliath tonics to double that. Probably not necessary, but it does make the fight a bit easier to manage. Next up is the Flying Fortress, which is not ideal. In normal playthroughs, all these fights are very weak to lightning damage. I, however, am limited to basic dagger attacks, which won't really change, actually. The flamethrower fights are fine, but they do take a while and force me to expend more healing resources than I'd like. The rocket launchers are a much bigger problem, because their missile attack deals decent damage and inflicts confusion, which can be dealt with but is a big pain in the butt. And I'm really feeling that lack of damage in these fights. It just takes so much time to heal, cure confusion, and take out the rocket launchers. Okay, that took forever. Time to deal with the actual boss. And this fight is already bad because my characters get afflicted with old. I have no way to cure old, which means any character that gets affected is going to quickly become useless for dealing damage. At least healing items aren't affected by level. It does take less time than I'd expected to take out both launchers, so that's good at least. Then it's just a matter of spamming attacks until the cannon uses wave cannon, And while my healing isn't infinite, having tons of ethers and potions to make X potions does mean healing isn't too risky. The fight takes a while because my damage is bad, and it's boring because it's a boring boss fight, but eventually after way too long, the cannon finally dies. I will say the soul cannon itself was way easier to deal with than the rocket launchers on the side, which is really weird. Stupid confusion. Okay, I think it's time to do some grinding. I'm a bit underleveled, and I don't want the next few boss fights to take forever. I will, very soon, get access to some very shiny new toys for chemists, but until then I need to just gain some levels to up my damage and my durability. And it's time for the Archaeoavis. I've been stockpiling tonics, but soon I'll be able to buy them, so no holding back now. First is speed shakes to give everyone haste, then a turtle soup to drop the Avis's defenses. The Avis can still deal big damage with its various attacks, but Hasted Lena with the healing staff can mostly keep up by herself without any items. Once the Avis dies and resurrects, it starts to use its devastating Maelstrom attack, but it's not really enough to be more than a blip as I completely devastate it with hasted attacks. Galoof is gone for a bit, so I'm now limited to 3 party members for the next boss fights. And first boss on the list is Pyrobolus. Normally, you need to kill all the Pyroboli? At the same time to negate their ability to resurrect each other. However, they do not use Arise if they die via self-destruct, so the actual plan is to just survive, which gets spicy at points, but thankfully full revives keep the party alive long enough for all the bombs to blow themselves up. And next up is Titan, big attacks and earth-based damage. Good thing I can use Mixture to make Leva salves for the whole party. This will negate Titan's final Earthshaker, and nothing else about this boss is actually threatening or interesting. Okie dokie. Who is next? Chimera Brain is up next. Aqua Breath deals pretty high damage. Fortunately, I can mix together some resist ice items, which despite the name, does not make you resist ice. Rather, you absorb it. So the Chimera Brain's frost attack becomes a free, all-party heal, which is helpful. Thank you, and goodbye. Boss is defeated, time to warp away to Galoof's world and immediately get kidnapped. So Galoof has to come save the whole party, which means a one-on-one fight with Gilgamesh. And that problem is solved by Galoof downing a bunch of tonics to boost himself and just attacking for pretty okay damage. I mean, it's better than before, but it will never be great. On to the bridge, time to bop, and it's a bunch of fights against weak enemies that lead into another Gilgamesh fight. This is literally the last fight before I can buy all the tonics I want, so time to drink down everything I've got to give everyone higher HP, haste, and protect. I mean, I don't actually have quite enough tonics to do that for everyone, but I do have a lot of positive effects in play now. And while Gilgamesh can try to buff himself in phase 2 of the fight to make this scary, I have more than enough X potion ingredients to outlast him. The party gets blasted away and lands near the town of Regol, and this town finally sells drinkable tonics and holy water, which means it's time for my characters to drink heavily for the rest of the game. The drink command is better on stronger physical classes, but it's not bad on any class. Time to do some money grinding, because I need all the items. After some grinding and equipment purchases, it's time to move on, which starts in the underground waterway, which has a bunch of mandatory fights, none of which are particularly difficult thanks to chemist healing. Then into the dinosaur fight, where a quick Phoenix Down wins the fight in a single action. Moogle Village has the Dancing Dagger, inconsistent as a weapon, but it can be very strong if you get lucky enough to trigger Sword Stance with any consistency. And then back to Castle Ball. And it's immediately time to leave, because I need to grab some medicine for another dragon. And this mountain has my next big target, Zombie Dragons. These are pretty strong, but can be harmed with offensive high potions, because X potions and Phoenix Downs just miss, apparently. Anyway, the reason killing these is useful is because they drop Dragon Fangs, my next mixture material. Next boss time, Evil Plant, and it's time for the new start of Battle Ritual. Drink a lot. Starting with Goliath tonics to double the entire party's max HP, then mix some Dragon Fangs to deal big holy damage and fire damage. I didn't actually get enough Dragon Fangs to keep doing that, but it does deal some big initial damage. Bart's then hastes via Speed Shake, and it's time to attack as fast as possible, and hope I get lucky with some sword stances. Which I mostly do, but then Bart's gets paralyzed. But while he's paralyzed, I can start mixing some Samson's Mites to boost his level. This can help counteract the level decrease from old. Not by a lot, but at least by some. Huh. This fight is actually fairly tricky when you can't just burn down the flowers so the boss does literally nothing. These statuses are really annoying. I mean, thankfully I have more ability to cure statuses than most parties. So it takes a bit, but eventually the main pod goes down. Then I just need to kill the stupid flowers, which really just takes a while because my party keeps getting afflicted with every status effect the game could think of. And yeah, it's pretty obnoxious. Little dragon fan grinding for funsies, and then it's back to Castle Ball to heal the dragon, and now I once more can fly around the world, because I still have a ways to go before this run is over. Next up, I fly over to Guido's cave, which is immediately sunk by X-Death. Then over to Surgate Castle to do some petty theft of all the items here. They do have better armor, but I can't afford it because I spent all my money on restocking my consumables. So let's do some enemy grinding to get my money stocks back up. Grinding done and new gear acquired, it's time for a boat fight, which means our old friend Gilgamesh. Start by speed shaking to give everyone haste, then Goliath tonics to double everyone's HP, then some power drinks to buff everyone's attack. And Kido never even tries to use White Wind before going down, and then it's just spam attacks against Gilgamesh. His attacks aren't normally dangerous, but they are even less dangerous than normal when I have twice as much HP as any character really should. I am so glad I have beverages. Okay, no reason to delay, it's time for Barrier Tower. Good to know the dragons here are still pretty scary, even with double HP. Those attacks are pretty beefy. I mean, not that beefy. Not when I functionally have 99 X potions, but still. Okay, next up is Atomos, which actually can deal enough damage to strain my party, mostly because it double casts Comet whenever a party member is alive. Goliath tonics and speed shakes do a lot, but on the high end, Atomos can deal 3,000 damage to a single target in one turn if I get unlucky. That being said, haste and power drinks means my party is still dealing a lot of damage very quickly. And making sure no one gets absorbed with Atomos' mouth isn't too difficult. Alright, that was fun. What's next? Guido's cave, which doesn't have anything interesting, but gives me the branch that will open the path to the actual next area of interest. More. This place has all the usual consumables I love, and new armor for the entire party. And a new knife. It's elemental, which can be a double-edged sword, but it's stronger. But as ever, I am short on money, because consumables do be expensive. So it's time to do even more grinding. Grinding complete and equipment acquired, and it's time for the Forest of Moor. And that means it's time for the crystal fight. First, drink my pre-battle cocktail, then mix to get resist fire. This will make my entire party absorb fire damage. Again, not really sure why it's called resist element when you absorb it, but whatever. Then it's just a matter of attacking the top crystal until it gets to low health. It will then start spamming Firaga on my entire team, which would be devastating, except I absorb fire. So it actually just means I don't have to think or care about healing at all, so I can just spam attacks. I do have to switch out my knives against the third crystal because it absorbs wind, and of course I didn't save enough non-elemental weapons for the entire party, but that just means this is a delay. Being constantly healed by Firaga means I'm never in any actual danger. Galoof is out, Kryl is in, and it's time to take the fight to X-Death. So next up is another Gilgamesh fight. Pre-fight beverage is consumed, and it's time to spam the attack command. Gilgamesh can reduce one character to red HP with Hurricane, but I have X potions, so who cares? There isn't really anything interesting here. Something about having unparalleled healing ability and double HP is really strong, it turns out. He does morph into a strong-looking form in Phase 2, but then he's actually weaker. So big, who cares energy. Bye, Gilgamesh. And it's X-Death time. Gotta get my buffs out quick, because X-Death is no slouch on the murdering my team department. Oh, and he has Dispel, which is rude, actually. Good news is Dispel doesn't affect the Goliath status, for some reason. Time to employ some Leva Salves again to negate Earthshaker. And there is Dispel again. Actually, him having Dispel might actually help me, as he'll spend more time dispelling my statuses than actually attacking. And I have plenty of statuses. Also, Holy Breath counts as a heavy attack, so it doesn't work on most bosses? Why? It just deals damage. That's very weird. And inconvenient. X-Death is being a bit of a jerk. Time to consult the big table of mix results. Oh, interesting. A Maiden's Kiss mixed with a Holy Water gives an ally Protect, Haste, and Blink. Oh, I know what my offensive strategy is going to be going forward. And while X-Death can try and dispel statuses, Ferris and Lena just spend all their time reapplying every single status effect. I do need to be careful to make sure I don't lose by only having berserked allies left alive, but Bartz and Kryl combined can deal enough damage to end this fight without me being in any danger. X-Death is defeated and the worlds re-merge, so it's time for Kryl and Bartz to have a grand adventure. Which basically means riding a chocobo for 15 feet before being attacked by an antlion. And that means it's time to buff with pre-battle drinks and then a blessed kiss on Bartz, who can make pretty short work of the boss. Ferris rejoins the party and it's time for the Pyramid of Moor. But first I have to fight this obnoxious gargoyle. They will revive themselves if you don't kill both at once. And while I have some fun nonsense in my mixed toolkit, multi-target damage is actually not among my options. They are, however, vulnerable to Berserk. So by using a Blessed Kiss, I can block their counterattack revival. This admittedly does also give them haste and blink, but that's not too difficult to deal with. I could in theory use a Bacchus cider mixture, but that uses a turtle shell and those can't be bought. So better to save them for when I need them. The pyramid has a bunch of neat items and mandatory encounters, but the pyramid has no boss, and the encounters here are not interesting to talk about. So it's next boss time. Melusine. Pre-battle drinks and a blessed kiss. It would seem Melusine is immune to wind damage, which isn't great. Holy Breath also does nothing. Normally I'd just throw fire at her and the fight would end. I mean, Ferris with a Morningstar might be able to deal enough damage by herself. It is taking a while though. I mean, it's not difficult, I have functionally infinite healing, but it is slow. And boring. There we go. Melusine down and Lena has rejoined the group, and I have my airship. And my first destination is the Sealed Castle. With my first tablet, I can access some sealed weapons. Grab the Sage's Staff, probably won't be useful, but why not? Then the Assassin's Dagger for the damage, and then a random weapon because the rest of these are garbage. Then it's down to the Phantom Village, where they sell the best armor in the game, which is always very exciting. Oh, while I'm here, I should pick up some Morningstars. They are the best non-elemental weapon I can get, other than the Assassin's Dagger. Not as strong as an air knife, but I might need that non-elemental damage. I could head into the Rift right now, but I might as well do some work on getting some shiny items in the dungeons that are now accessible. And first is the Island Shrine. It is guarded by gargoyles, so I employ the Berserk strat to stop their resurrection and let Ferris and Bartz slowly slash them down. Sadly, no interesting items here, but I do need to fight the boss to unlock some more dungeons. Wendigo hides behind illusory copies of itself, which isn't ideal. Fortunately, I don't even have any multi-target attacks, and thanks to the entire party being hasted, I can pretty quickly land a hit against the real Wendigo, and repeat until dead. Well, that was boring. Next up is the Forked Tower, so it's time to divide and conquer. Minotaur will get mad if I use magic, which is fine, I don't even have any magic. I only have 2 characters, so I'm hesitant to use Blessed Kiss. That's fine though, haste and attack boost mean I'm still dealing enough damage to end the fight pretty quickly. Then it's over to Omniscient. I don't have any magic, so I use Blessed Kiss immediately to stop his magic, and he beats my entire party to death. Alright then, mages can hit like trucks apparently. Let's try that again, but start with the party in the back row to survive the initial onslaught. That reduces the physical damage I take and means I have enough time to get off Protect drinks and Goliath tonics. And once that's done, I can switch Bartz to the front row and Blessed Kiss. The blink effect means I'm safe from 2 attacks and Bartz can slash down the Omniscient. Next is the Great Sea Trench, deal with the gargoyles in the usual way, and it's into the dungeon itself, which doesn't have anything too exciting treasure-wise. And while I could fight the boss, it won't give me anything I care about, so instead, it is time to bounce. Back over to Boko so I can take the long run to the top of the waterfall to get the magic lamp. We love the magic lamp. And while there are some more places I could explore, I think instead it's time to hop into the Rift to do some grinding. Just a little bit of leveling up before the final push to the endgame. Grinding completed, consumables restocked, it's time to make the big push into the extra-dimensional Rift. And that means it is boss rush time. And first up is Califisteri. She puts up Reflect and then reflects spells onto the party. Considering I do not have any spellcasting at all, I don't actually care. I expend some Dragon Fangs to boost Bartz's level, and then use a Blessed Kiss to give him all the offensive buffs. This easily outpaces Califisteri's Drain counterattack. I would prefer if Calo would stop casting Death only on bards, but we don't always get what we want. Obnoxious status effects are not enough to save her. Next up is a panda, shameless Byblos clone, but unlike Byblos, I have discovered the power of beverages. Panda does have some pretty dangerous counterattacks, but these can be negated by using a Blessed Kiss to inflict Berserk. And that does mean a panda now hits harder and faster, but that's okay. I have double HP and can easily mix X potions. Stopping to heal means it does take me longer than normal to set up my buffs and defensive setup, but once I do, I basically leave Kryle and Lena at full ATB to heal, while Ferris and Bartz very quickly take out a panda's health. Then on to Azul Magia. Azul Magia has all the considerable power of blue magic at his disposal, which means weird effects and level-based shenanigans. He can inflict ult on most of the party, inflict status effects, and deal big damage to Lena with level 4 Gravaga. But Ferris is immune to ult thanks to her level, and Blessed Kiss just deals such big damage. It's not a quick fight since most of the party has their level reduced down to basically nothing, but despite his many effects, there isn't really anything Azul Magia can do that is actually threatening. Next, it's Catastrophe. This boss's biggest threat is the very strong Earthshaker attack. While I can use Levasalve to negate the attack with Float, Catastrophe will cast 100 Gs to negate the effect on the entire party, which is actually fine. Thanks to easy haste access and mix, I can make Levasalves all day, and while a single character is under the effect of Float, Catastrophe will do nothing other than 100 Gs. So, despite getting a big hit off initially, Catastrophe never attacks me again. That fight is very funny to me. Halicarnassus is next up, and he loves to inflict the party with status effects, but thankfully he has a predictable sequence of attacks, always cycling through the exact same attacks. And while Holy still one-shots anyone in my party, because 9,000 damage is 9,000 damage, I have so much healing access it just doesn't matter. And after one full cycle, I settle into the right rhythm of just having Lena and Kryle hang around, healing when they need to, while Bartz and Ferris go absolutely berserk. Another boss down. Next is Twintania, which can deal big damage but leaves itself open to instant death effects while charging its party-destroying Giga Flare. And mixing up a quick death potion while it charges ends the fight. Oh Twintania, you're such a silly boss. Gilgamesh! This is not a boss, just a glorified cutscene, which is a shame. A boss fight would actually take less time than waiting for all this dialogue to cycle through. Only one boss left to go, Necrophobe, who is an optional fight, but you know what, with how strong chemists have been, let's give it a shot. And it starts off great by me accidentally leaving auto battle on, so I use an X potion on Ferris, who was at full health, and then use a Blessed Kiss. So she is now berserked. Good news is that the barriers are actually vulnerable to death, and thanks to death potions not being reflectable, I can very quickly start taking them down. I don't want to kill all of them, just most, so then I can start getting my buffs up in advance of Phase 2 without getting bombarded by Flare and Holy constantly. I am out of Dark Matter. It's not the easiest item to get, but now it's a bit of a waiting game to see how long it takes Kryle and Ferris to attack the correct target. Once the barriers go down, it's time for the proper fight. I mean, I say proper, but Kryle buffed up her level and attack, so she's dealing almost 4,000 damage. And while Ferris and Bartz are dealing less damage, combined we're looking at 8k? Necrophobe has Vacuum Wave as a dangerous attack, but Blessed Kiss applies Blink to negate it. Then Gilgamesh shows up to steal the kill. And that means all that's left is the final fight against Exdeath. First up is Tree Form. My setup does keep getting interrupted by White Hole, the most obnoxious attack in the game. Seriously, why does it deal such different status effects? It takes 3 moves to fully heal back from. I try mixing life shields to negate instant death attacks, which works a bit, but apparently only protects against death once. Then throw out some dragon defense mixtures to apply Reflect, Protect, Shell, and Regen. I'll lose most of these due to White Hole, but it is a lot of buffs. Time for Blessed Kiss and the main attacks. I'd like to berserk more than one character, but Exdeath has a lot of nonsense that can be a bit difficult to recover from. Oh right, forgot about Turtle Soup, might as well drop his defense. I do hang out at under 10k for a minute, giving Exdeath time to cast Meteor, but thanks to stupid high HP, no one even dies. Time for the real final battle. All my buffs carry over, which is nice, and it's time to spam Magic Lamp. The damage is meh, thanks to low magic stats, but I only actually care about Zantetsuken to take out the rear segment. Then a helping of Turtle Soup for everyone to drop defense. Okay, time for the first Grand Cross and Paralysis Mini and a Confusion that is immediately broken? Alright, not bad. I do have to cure Berserk on Bartz, but that is easy enough to reapply. And now it's just about maintaining my advantage. Bartz can deal big damage with buffs, but it is single target. And while Grand Cross isn't usually too bad, I do occasionally get Doom or Instant Death. Fortunately, this is nothing my many consumables and mixtures can handle. Confident in that, it's time to also Berserk Ferris. She deals less damage, because worse weapon, but more damage is better. And some Succubus Kiss mixes can deal big damage and heal when needed. My real concern is that I only have single target damage. Once I get down to only one target, Neo Exdeath is going to start spamming the worst spells. And because my attack target is random, I really need to be prepared to go all out as soon as only one target remains. Okay, there's only one target left, and oh, it would seem that despite Berserk targeting randomly, that randomness worked out in my favor. I didn't even have time to notice I was down to one segment. A Succubus Kiss killed one segment, and the next Berserk attack killed the other, completely bypassing the final dangerous section of the fight entirely through sheer luck. And that was Final Fantasy V, beaten completely with only chemists. And that run was really fun. The beginning was a bit iffy because I didn't have access to the drinkables that are so very good, or some of the more useful consumables for mixtures, but otherwise it was really interesting to have such a diverse moveset via drink and mix. But I will have more to say about that in the summary video out in a few weeks. I did want to shout out that I do have a Patreon, linked in the description. I spend a lot of time making these videos, so if you enjoyed the video, want to support the channel, and are financially stable enough to do so, that exists. No pressure though, this channel is free to enjoy for everyone and will remain that way. For now, if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you'd like to see more of this, feel free to subscribe. Hey, maybe leave a comment if you have something you'd like to say. But whatever you decide to do, have a safe trip home.